Toedscool EX is a pretty interesting card, but why isn't it good in the current standard format? Toedscool EX is a Grass EX Pokemon with 270 HP. Its ability Protective Mycelim allows you to prevent all effects of attacks used by your opponent's Pokemon, done to all of your Pokemon that have energy attached. So this is going to stop things like Sableye's Lost Mine attack and Medicham V's Yoga Loop. Both of these are pretty pesky attacks, and they're very nice to prevent from being done to your Pokemon. It also has the Attack Colony Rush that does 80 damage for 2 Grass Energy, and the attack does 40 more for each of your benched Pokemon that have any Grass Energy attached. Now, if you play this card on Pokemon TCG Live right now, and when you're watching my gameplay in a little bit, you'll see that this attack has some issues on Pokemon TCG Live. It's doing more damage sometimes than it's supposed to. And speaking of its damage output, that's kind of one of the problems that this card has. It doesn't do a lot of damage. As you can see here, I was playing against a Sableye Charizard Lost Zone deck, but in the early turns, I was barely even doing enough damage to knock out Cramorants, which only have 110 HP. So let's talk about the deck list. I started by using one of Azul GG's Toedscool EX deck lists from his YouTube channel as a baseline, but he didn't really have any draw power in there. He had a Cleffa, the new Cleffa instead of Mew, and he also had Eldegoss, which can search your deck for energies instead of Bibarel. And I understand that searching out energies and then attaching them with Cherrim Spring Bloom is going to be the main strategy of the deck, but I felt like just searching out a couple of grass energies with Eldegoss was not going to cut it, so we have Bibarel here with Industrious Incisors. This is how I decided to try building the deck to get it to function. And you know what? I think the deck is at a functioning rate. Its power level just isn't really there. So I've got a 4-4 line of Toedscool EX, a 2-2 line of the Cherrim. Like I said, Spring Bloom is going to allow you to attach as many grass energies as you like a turn from your hand to one of your Pokemon that does not have a rule box. So you're going to have to attach them to Toedscool before it evolves into Toedscruel. Other than that, you can attach grass energy freely to the rest of your Pokemon, aside from Radiant Greninja, which is just here to help you draw a couple extra cards. So because grass energies are going to be so important to this deck, I put 12 grass energies in here. I think that's a fine number. And then I kept the trainer lineup pretty simple. 4 Battle VIP Pass, 4 Level Ball, 4 Iono, 4 Research, 3 Boss, 3 Ultra Ball, 3 Artazon, and 2 Super Rod. So like I said, I think the deck is functioning at a pretty good rate, but its power level just isn't there, even with the buffs of the Pokemon TCG Live glitches, making Toedscool do a little bit more damage. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more Pokemon TCG content, and you can look in the description down below for plenty of ways to support the channel and my content. So this is actually a really good start here for game 1 versus the Lost Zone Sablezard deck. I have Artazon, I have Level Ball, so I can get a lot of Pokemon down here. I'm going to go ahead for the Artazon for Mew, retreat, and look for a Battle VIP Pass so we can really fill up our bench. Now the issue against a deck like Sableye for this is going to be that we want a lot of Pokemon down. So this Radiant Greninja, maybe I shouldn't have played it down because I need so many things on my board. I want the Cherrim to accelerate energies. I want the Toedscool EX to prevent the effects of attacks, and it's also going to be my main attacker. I want the Kricketune to give me more HP. I need Manaphy for the bench barrier, and I need Bibarel to draw cards. So, and I also want a second Toedscool for when the first one gets KO'd. So there's a lot of Pokemon to put down and a lot of Pokemon to evolve, which is one of the inherent issues with a deck like this that needs so much preparation and setup to even get to a point of functioning. So I went with the second Toedscool there. So the opponent attaches this Vengeful Punch to Cramorant and then takes the knockout on Mew. So they're giving me some extra bench space there. I'm done with using the Mew. So that's actually really good for my setup that the Mew is now knocked out. And I'll start setting up the board. We're going to want to get Cherrim here. We'll want at least one Toedscool EX. Maybe try to bench up a Bidoof. with the Artazon. So there we go with that. So we can have a draw engine actually online. And with this Ultra Ball, I'll go get the Cherrim next, because that's the most important piece. We need to accelerate the energies with Cherrim. And then just hope to draw into a Toedscruel off of the Iono. And then we'll also have the concealed cards as an option if we need to draw more cards after that. So between the Iono and the concealed cards, I find some energy. I also have an Ultra Ball now, so I will be able to search out the Toedscruel, get this online, start taking knockouts. With 1 grass energy on the bench, I'll do just enough to knock out Cramorant. It'll do 80 plus 40, but as I mentioned earlier, Colony Rush is bugged, so it's actually saying that it's doing 160. I would have knocked out the Cramorant anyway without that glitch, and then I take 40 damage for the Vengeful Punch. So for the rest of the game, we kind of just go back and forth, taking 1 prize card a turn. My grass energies on my Pokemon are preventing them from using Lost Mines on any of my Pokemon that have grass energy, as long as they don't have Path to the Peak out. They did play a few Path to the Peaks throughout the game that I keep removing with my Artazons. But like I mentioned, if they had not Lost Zoned their Radiant Charizard, this game probably would have been over a long time ago, because my Toedscruel EXs are weak to grass. So they are taking like 2 prizes to make up for turns that they miss knockouts, and then I just am swinging with my glitched attack that's doing more damage than it should every turn, taking single prize KOs every turn. And then eventually we just get to a point where I win the game by taking my last prize card. The opponent actually ends up conceding before that can happen. So here we just Colony Rush the Cramorant. I think it actually might have done the correct amount of damage that time. And we take the knockout there, and the opponent isn't going to be able to get anything going here, and they'll just end up conceding. The next game is against Rapid Strike Urshifu, Rapid Strike Inteleon, and honestly, this game was pretty ruined by the bug on Toedscruel EX, because I was taking knockouts when I shouldn't even be able to, because I was doing more damage than I should be. Like I swung 120 into an Urshifu when I think it should have only been doing 80 damage. And there were more instances of that throughout the game. But Toedscruel EX's ability did provide value, because it was blocking Yoga Loop from hitting my Pokemon with grass energies, so they couldn't take an extra turn, so they were just knocking out the Pokemon with Inteleon VMAX's ability and Radiant Alakazam's Painful Spoons, as opposed to the Yoga Loop. So that was valuable. But in the end, I do end up losing this match, and I didn't really mind losing, because kind of felt like I was cheating anyway with the Toedscruel EX glitch. So overall, I got the Toedscruel EX deck to a place of functioning, but not really to a place where I feel like it's a competitive deck. There's too many pieces you need. The Kricketune could come out. That's not really a game changer in my opinion. The extra HP is nice sometimes, but it's not completely necessary. But I don't think that's the only problem, having that 1 extra stage 1 line. We already have our Pokemon is a stage 1. Our supporting Pokemon that helps the board establish the state we need is Cherrim, which is a stage 1 Pokemon. And then we need to draw some cards somehow, so we're using Bibarel. And then the deck is also going to need Manaphy in the early turns, and even in the later turns, depending on which deck we're playing against, because Toedscruel is not protecting bench damage, it's only protecting those Pokemon from effects. And then Toedscruel itself is pretty good in the upcoming meta, because you're going to be hitting Charizard EX for weakness. It's weak to grass, but Toedscruel is weak to fire, and most, if not all, Charizard EX decks are going to have some fire attackers in there, like Radiant Charizard and Entei V and Delphox V. There's going to be things hitting the Toedscruel for weakness back, and it's, I mean, it only has 270 HP anyway, so the Charizards can knock it out. And we have to have a board of energy to knock out the Charizard EX in the first place. It's not like we're just going to be KOing it with our 2 energy on Toedscruel EX. And we have a lot of dainty Pokemon supporting it. The Cherrims have 80 HP, the Cherubi has 40 HP before it even evolves up to that. So I'm not impressed with Toedscruel EX as an archetype. I do think the card is cool and the card is interesting and it looks like it would have some sort of potential in a vacuum, but at the moment, I don't think we'll be seeing this deck do anything competitively unless it only faces Sableye Charizard decks that lost zone their Charizards. So let me know what you think about Toedscruel EX. Did I get it wrong? Is the list bad? Is the Pokemon TCG Live bug a purposeful buff to try to get this Toedscruel EX into competitive viability? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.